Have you ever wondered why two people can be exactly the same age, eat more or less the same diet, hit the gym with the same frequency, and yet one of them moves through life like they're 20 years younger? The answer isn't hiding in a blood panel. It's not lurking in a cholesterol reading. The answer is buried deep inside every cell in your body, in microscopic structures called mitochondria, the tiny engines that power virtually everything you do. Here is a fact that might genuinely surprise you. By the time the average person reaches their mid-60s, somewhere between 30 and 40% of their mitochondrial function has quietly disappeared. Not muscle mass, not bone density. The actual energy-generating capacity of your cells, just gone. And that silent decline doesn't simply leave you feeling a bit tired in the afternoon. It sets off a chain reaction. It fuels chronic inflammation. It accelerates the aging process at a cellular level. It creates the precise internal conditions that allow metabolic disease, cardiovascular problems, and cognitive decline to gain a foothold. But here is what recent research has uncovered, and it is something that the vast majority of healthcare conversations are still overlooking. There are 4 specific ordinary foods, the kind you can find in any grocery store, that have been shown in clinical studies to trigger your body to build brand new mitochondria, to reduce inflammation at the deepest cellular level, and to help people feel remarkably better, not over months of waiting, but in a matter of weeks. Now, if you are like most people, you have probably accepted a few assumptions about getting older. You may believe that fatigue, brain fog, stiff joints, and dwindling energy are simply the price of admission for aging. That inflammation is something you manage with over-the-counter pills, not something you can actually reverse. That the only way to grow new mitochondria is through punishing exercise that most people past a certain age simply cannot sustain. After nearly 3 decades of studying how the human body generates and loses energy at the cellular level, I have observed something that challenges every one of those assumptions. Mitochondrial decline is not a one-way street. Chronic inflammation is not a permanent sentence. And you absolutely do not need to run marathons to rebuild your cellular powerhouses. What you need are the right foods, in the right amounts, consumed consistently. Disclaimer. The information shared in this video is for educational purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider before making significant changes to your diet or health regimen. My name is Dr. Leana. I specialize in emergency medicine and mitochondrial health research. Over nearly 30 years working at the intersection of acute care and cellular biology, I have watched something deeply frustrating unfold, both in clinical settings and in the broader cultural conversation around aging. We treat fatigue and inflammation like background static. We accept exhaustion as normal. We shrug off aching joints and foggy thinking as dues we owe for having lived a certain number of years. But they are not inevitable. They are measurable biological breakdowns occurring at the mitochondrial level, and the scientific evidence is no longer ambiguous. Specific compounds found in specific foods can reverse that breakdown. Not merely slow it down, actually reverse it. The patients I have worked with who have achieved these improvements are not doing anything exotic or inaccessible. They are consistently eating 4 foods, most of which they likely already had some version of sitting in their kitchens. In the next several minutes, I am going to walk you through exactly why mitochondrial decline causes inflammation, not just fatigue, and why addressing one resolves the other. I will share the 4 foods that have been validated in human clinical trials to stimulate mitochondrial biogenesis, the actual construction of brand new mitochondria. I will explain the precise biological pathways each food activates in language anyone can follow. I will give you the exact doses used in the studies that produced measurable results. Not vague general advice, but real quantities. I will warn you about the preparation mistakes that can destroy the active compounds in these foods before they ever reach your cells. And I will lay out a protocol you can begin implementing today. Before we dive in, a quick note. I regularly hear from viewers who have watched multiple videos on this channel only to realize they were never subscribed. If that sounds like you, take 2 seconds to check. Subscribing is free, and it helps this information reach more people who are looking for evidence-based health guidance. Let me begin with something most physicians do not take the time to explain clearly, and yet it is the single connection that makes everything else in this video make sense. Picture mitochondria as the power plants of a city. A healthy, thriving city has thousands of power plants humming at full capacity. The lights blaze in every neighborhood. Traffic flows smoothly. Hospitals run without a hitch. Factories produce around the clock. Everything functions because there is abundant, reliable energy coursing through the system. Now imagine those power plants start going offline. One by one, they shut down. At first, nobody notices. Then the streetlights in the outer neighborhoods start to dim. The factories slow their output. Hospitals switch over to backup generators. The city is still technically operational, but it is running on emergency reserves. Everything requires more effort. Everything moves slower, and the entire system becomes fragile, one unexpected demand away from crisis. That is precisely what happens inside your cells as mitochondrial function declines. And here is the piece of the puzzle that most people never learn. When mitochondria become damaged and dysfunctional, they do not simply produce less energy. They begin to leak. They release fragments of their internal structures into the surrounding cellular environment. And your immune system interprets those fragments as a threat. Your body responds to leaking mitochondria the same way it would respond to an infection. It mounts an inflammatory response. Scientists call this mitochondria-driven sterile inflammation. It is termed sterile because there is no actual pathogen involved, no bacteria, no virus. It is your own damaged cellular machinery setting off the alarm. And because the damage is continuous, the inflammation never fully resolves. It smolders, day after day, week after week, year after year. And that chronic low-grade inflammation is now recognized as the common thread running through cardiovascular disease, insulin resistance, neurodegenerative conditions, and the progression of many other serious health challenges. Now here is where the story takes a hopeful turn. When you trigger mitochondrial biogenesis, the growth of new, healthy mitochondria, two things happen at the same time. Your cells recover their energy production capacity, and the chronic inflammatory signal quiets because the source of it, those leaky, damaged mitochondria, has been cleared away and replaced with healthy new ones. This is exactly why the 4 foods I'm about to share with you do not merely boost your energy levels. They reduce measurable inflammation markers. They improve metabolic function. They can make you feel younger at a cellular level because biologically, your cells are becoming younger. To understand how these foods work, you need to understand 3 biological pathways. I promise to keep this clear and practical. The first pathway, and the most important one, involves a protein called PGC1-alpha. Think of PGC1-alpha as a construction foreman. When activated, it walks into the nucleus of your cell and switches on dozens of genes responsible for building new mitochondria. It orders up all the structural proteins, the membrane components, the enzymes, everything required to assemble a complete new cellular power plant from scratch. For decades, scientists understood that intense physical exercise activated PGC1-alpha. But more recent research has revealed that specific polyphenols and fatty acids found in food can activate the same pathway, in some cases as powerfully as moderate exercise. This explains why the research on certain foods shows such striking improvements in mitochondrial density. You are not patching up old mitochondria. You are constructing new ones. The second pathway involves an enzyme called AMPK, adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. AMPK functions as your cell's energy sensor. When it detects that cellular energy reserves are running low, it kicks off a cascade that includes activating PGC1-alpha. Certain food compounds create what scientists call hormetic stress, a mild beneficial metabolic challenge that activates AMPK without causing any damage to the cell. AMPK fires, PGC1-alpha fires, and mitochondrial biogenesis begins. The third pathway is one that most people have never heard of, and it may well be the most critical of the three. It is called mitophagy. Mitophagy is your body's dedicated recycling system for mitochondria. When a mitochondrion becomes damaged and dysfunctional, when it is leaking cellular debris and generating inflammation instead of producing energy, mitophagy identifies it, tags it, and removes it. It clears the broken machinery out of the way so new, healthy mitochondria can take its place. Here is the crucial detail. Mitophagy slows dramatically as we age. Damaged mitochondria pile up because the cleanup crew is no longer working efficiently. This is one of the principal reasons older cells produce less energy and more inflammation. The solution is not only building new mitochondria, it is simultaneously accelerating the removal of the old, damaged ones. And one of the 4 foods I'm about to reveal specifically activates both mitophagy and biogenesis at the same time. The research behind this compound is among the most exciting in the entire field of aging science. Before I walk you through the protocol, I want to be precise. Vague claims about food doing things to your body are not helpful. So let me share the actual clinical evidence. Researchers at the University of California, San Diego, conducted a study with patients who had advanced heart failure. Participants received epicatechin-enriched dark chocolate daily for 3 months. At the end of the trial, the researchers biopsied skeletal muscle and directly examined mitochondrial structure using electron microscopy. The epicatechin group showed recovery of mitochondrial cristae, the critical internal folds that drive energy production, back toward normal levels, along with increases in molecular indicators of new mitochondria production. Their exercise capacity improved measurably. A research team at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology gave older adults either urolithin A, a compound derived from pomegranate, or a placebo for 4 months. The urolithin A group demonstrated significant improvements in mitochondrial function. They improved by 60 meters on the standardized 6-minute walk test and showed better grip strength. The researchers noted that their mitochondrial markers resembled those of people roughly a decade younger. This was not measured subjectively. It was confirmed through direct tissue analysis. At the Karolinska Institute in Sweden, researchers gave healthy adults nitrate equivalent to roughly 200 to 300 grams of fresh spinach daily for just 3 days. After those 3 days, muscle analysis showed that mitochondria consumed less oxygen while producing more ATP, the cellular energy currency. Participants demonstrated measurably better muscle efficiency during exercise. Their mitochondria were already becoming more efficient in just 72 hours. And a study following adults over age 60 who ate 3 servings of fatty fish per week for 12 weeks found notable increases in mitochondrial enzyme activity in their muscle cells, along with improvements in muscle strength and endurance. These were people over 60 with no major dietary overhaul other than adding fish 3 times a week. Let us move into the 4 foods themselves. Food number 1, pomegranate. The daily target is half a fresh pomegranate, or 4 ounces of pure pomegranate juice. Pomegranate is arguably the most scientifically remarkable of the 4, and here is why. Pomegranates contain compounds called L-glutanins. When you eat pomegranate or drink the juice, those L-glutanins travel to your colon, where your gut bacteria break them down into a molecule called urolithin A. Urolithin A is the active compound, and it does something no other food compound does quite as effectively. It simultaneously activates mitophagy, clearing out damaged mitochondria, and triggers biogenesis, building new ones. This dual action is what makes pomegranate exceptional. You are not just constructing new power plants, you are demolishing the old broken ones first, which eliminates the primary source of chronic mitochondrial inflammation. Urolithin A also supports the growth of Akkermansia mucinifera, a beneficial gut bacterium associated with reduced systemic inflammation and improved immune function. For practical application, eat half a fresh pomegranate daily or drink 4 ounces of pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar. Check the label. Make sure it reads 100% pomegranate, not a blend. Alternatively, a pomegranate extract supplement standardized to at least 30% punicalagins can work. If using a supplement, take it with a meal that includes some dietary fat to maximize absorption. Here is a useful timing tip. Drink pomegranate juice before bed. Your gut bacteria metabolize the elagitannins overnight, producing urolithin A while you sleep. One important note: not everyone's gut bacteria convert elagitannins to urolithin A with the same efficiency. This is precisely why consistency matters. Over weeks of regular pomegranate consumption, you cultivate the bacterial populations that perform this conversion most effectively. Food number 2, dark chocolate. The target is 30 grams daily, which is roughly 2 small squares. The chocolate must be at least 70% cacao. The active compound in dark chocolate is epicatechin, a flavanol belonging to the family of compounds called catechins. Epicatechin is one of the most potent natural activators of PGC1-alpha ever identified. When epicatechin enters your bloodstream, it binds to receptors that activate both PGC1-alpha and AMPK, the two master regulators of mitochondrial biogenesis. The University of California, San Diego study I mentioned earlier found significant mitochondrial structural recovery from epicatechin over a 3-month period. Epicatechin also stimulates nitric oxide production, which improves blood flow and oxygen delivery to cells. This means your existing mitochondria receive better fuel supply while your body simultaneously builds new ones. Additionally, dark chocolate flavanols help modulate the NF-kappa B inflammatory pathway, which can reduce the production of inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha. This is the direct anti-inflammatory mechanism. Studies measuring C-reactive protein in people who consumed high flavanol dark chocolate for 8 weeks showed inflammatory markers dropping by roughly 25 to 35%. The daily dose is 30 grams, about 2 small squares, of dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao content. At 80 or 85%, you get significantly more flavanols and less sugar. At 90 or 100%, you are approaching maximum benefit. Now, here is the critical preparation rule that most people do not know about. The chocolate must be non-alkalized. Look at the ingredient label. If it says processed with alkali or Dutched, the alkalizing process can destroy up to 90% of the flavanols. You want chocolate that says non-alkalized or non-Dutched. Have your 2 squares in the afternoon. Your body's overnight repair systems benefit from having flavanols already circulating in your bloodstream. Food number 3, fatty fish. The target is 3 to 4 servings per week, with each serving approximately 4 ounces. Your best options are salmon, mackerel, sardines, or anchovies. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA from marine sources, do something structurally unique to mitochondria that no other nutrient replicates in quite the same way. They are physically incorporated into mitochondrial membranes. A healthy mitochondrial membrane needs to be fluid and flexible to function efficiently. As cells age and mitochondria accumulate damage, their membranes become rigid and less functional. EPA and DHA restore that membrane fluidity, improving mitochondrial efficiency at the most fundamental structural level. Beyond membrane support, omega-3s also activate PGC1-alpha and help reduce the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. EPA and DHA help modulate the same NF-kappa B pathway that drives chronic inflammation. Research measuring inflammatory markers in people who ate fatty fish 3 times weekly for 12 weeks showed notable reductions in IL-6, demonstrating anti-inflammatory benefits comparable to some conventional approaches, but without gastrointestinal side effects. The practical target is 3 to 4 servings of fatty fish per week, each serving about 4 ounces cooked. Salmon is the most extensively studied. Mackerel, sardines, and anchovies offer comparable or even higher omega-3 concentrations. If you are not currently a regular fish eater, start with 2 servings per week and gradually increase. Canned sardines packed in water or olive oil are an excellent, convenient, and affordable option that is extremely rich in omega-3s. The preparation rule here is essential. Do not fry your fish in vegetable oil. The omega-6 fats in most vegetable oils can oxidize at high temperatures and may compete with the anti-inflammatory omega-3s you are trying to deliver. Instead, bake, broil, poach, or pan-sear in olive oil over lower heat. If you eat no seafood at all, algae-based omega-3 supplements providing 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily are an effective plant-based alternative. Flaxseed provides ALA, which your body converts to EPA and DHA at only about 5 to 10% efficiency, so you would need significantly larger quantities to achieve comparable results. Food number 4. Leafy greens and beets. The daily target is 2 cups of raw spinach or arugula, or 1 medium beet 4 times per week. Nitrates are the key active compounds here. Spinach, arugula, Swiss chard, kale, and beets are among the richest dietary sources of nitrates. When you eat these vegetables, bacteria in your mouth convert nitrates to nitrites. In your stomach, nitrites are converted to nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is one of the most powerful biological signals for mitochondrial biogenesis in the human body. Nitric oxide activates PGC1-alpha directly. It also activates an enzyme called guanylate cyclase that improves mitochondrial efficiency, meaning your mitochondria generate more ATP from the same amount of fuel. This is exactly what the Karolinska Institute study measured: better muscle efficiency, less oxygen consumption for the same workload. In everyday terms, you have more energy for the same effort. Nitric oxide also activates a pathway called NRF2, nuclear factor erythroid 2-related factor 2. NRF2 functions as your body's master antioxidant program. When NRF2 activates, it switches on over 200 genes that produce your body's own antioxidant enzymes: superoxide dismutase, catalase, glutathione peroxidase. These enzymes neutralize the reactive oxygen species that damaged mitochondria leak. This is a direct anti-inflammatory mechanism operating right at the source. The daily dose is 2 cups of raw spinach or arugula, or 1 cup cooked. Cooking concentrates the volume, but preserves nitrate content well when lightly steamed. For beets, the target is 1 medium beet 4 times per week, roasted or as 4 ounces of pure beet juice with no added sugar. Now, here is the single most important preparation rule for nitrate-rich vegetables, and almost nobody talks about it. Do not use antibacterial mouthwash right before eating them. The bacteria living in your mouth perform the essential first step of converting nitrates to nitrites. Antibacterial mouthwash eliminates those bacteria and can reduce your body's nitric oxide production from these foods by up to 60%. Also, do not boil spinach for extended periods and then pour out the water. Nitrates are water-soluble. If you make a soup with spinach, keep the broth. That is where a significant portion of the nitrates end up. Now let me share some practical tips drawn from years of clinical observation. Timing matters. Your body's mitochondrial repair and biogenesis activity peaks during sleep. Eat your pomegranate before bed. Have your dark chocolate and leafy greens in the afternoon. Enjoy your fish at lunch or at an early dinner. Try to avoid heavy meals within 3 hours of bedtime because active digestion can redirect resources away from cellular repair. Synergy is powerful. Dark chocolate combined with dark leafy greens in the same meal creates a synergistic effect. The epicatechin from chocolate and the nitric oxide from nitrates activate mitochondrial biogenesis through different but overlapping pathways simultaneously. A practical combination would be sautéed spinach in olive oil alongside a small piece of dark chocolate for dessert. Exercise amplifies results. If you exercise in the morning or early afternoon, eating any of these 4 foods within 2 hours of your workout can significantly amplify the mitochondrial biogenesis response. Exercise activates AMPK. The food compounds activate PGC1-alpha. The 2 signals together are substantially more powerful than either one alone. Consistency is everything. Measurable increases in mitochondrial density typically begin to appear around week 4 of daily consumption. By week 12, the effects become pronounced. The patients I have worked with who report the most transformative improvements in energy, mental clarity, and reduction in inflammatory symptoms have maintained consistency for 3 to 6 months, not 3 to 6 days. Track the right markers. You cannot feel your mitochondria improving day by day, which makes it tempting to give up. Instead, monitor proxy indicators. Your energy level at 3 in the afternoon, when mitochondrial output typically dips. Your morning recovery speed. Your exercise endurance. Your joint comfort. These improve progressively and provide meaningful feedback that keeps you motivated. Let me also walk you through the most common mistakes people make, so you can avoid them entirely. The first and most frequent mistake is inconsistency. People eat these foods enthusiastically for 4 days, notice a small improvement, then skip a week, then restart. Mitochondrial biogenesis is a cumulative process that requires a sustained biological signal. 3 days on followed by 10 days off will not produce meaningful change. You need daily consistency for at least 4 weeks before the first measurable improvements emerge. I tell patients to treat this like a daily practice. You would not skip an important routine for a week just because you felt fine one day. Do not skip your protocol. The second mistake is expecting immediate relief. These foods are not painkillers. They are not going to eliminate joint discomfort in 48 hours. What they do is gradually change the underlying biology that causes the discomfort. That process takes weeks. The patients who understand this are the ones who remain consistent long enough to experience the genuine results. The third mistake is substituting supplements for whole foods entirely. You can purchase urolithin A capsules, epicatechin extract, omega-3 pills, and nitrate powders. Quality supplements do have their place, especially when accessing whole foods is difficult. But dark chocolate contains epicatechin alongside hundreds of other flavonols that work synergistically. Pomegranate contains elegotannins that nourish gut bacteria in ways isolated urolithin supplements cannot fully replicate. Fatty fish provides protein, vitamin D, selenium, and other cofactors that contribute to the overall benefit. The whole food is generally more effective than the isolated compound alone. The fourth mistake involves preparation errors that silently destroy the active compounds. Boiling spinach and discarding the water, buying Dutch processed chocolate, frying fish in vegetable oil, using antibacterial mouthwash before eating leafy greens. These errors do not slightly reduce the benefit. They can eliminate most of it. Pay careful attention to how you prepare these foods. Fatigue, inflammation, declining energy, foggy thinking. These are not the inevitable consequences of aging. They are symptoms of mitochondrial dysfunction. And mitochondrial dysfunction responds to the right nutritional signals at any age. The patients I have seen make the most remarkable recoveries are not genetically gifted. They are not unusually lucky. They did not discover some exotic treatment unavailable to the rest of us. They consistently provided their cells with the compounds those cells needed to rebuild. They ate pomegranate to clear out damaged mitochondria and grow new ones. They ate dark chocolate to activate the master switch for biogenesis. They ate fatty fish to rebuild mitochondrial membranes and calm systemic inflammation. They ate leafy greens and beets to trigger nitric oxide production and switch on the body's own antioxidant defense system. These biological systems exist in you right now. The machinery for mitochondrial biogenesis is encoded in your DNA. The pathways for controlling inflammation are intact. They are simply waiting for the right inputs to activate. You can provide those inputs starting today. Let me quickly recap everything we covered. Mitochondrial decline drives both energy loss and chronic inflammation. Addressing mitochondrial health addresses both simultaneously. The 3 biological pathways are PGC1 alpha activation, which builds new mitochondria, AMPK activation, the energy sensor that triggers biogenesis, and mitophagy, which clears out old, damaged mitochondria. Food 1 is pomegranate, half a fresh pomegranate or 4 ounces of pure juice daily. It activates mitophagy and biogenesis through urolithin A, supports beneficial gut bacteria, and reduces systemic inflammation.